Donald Trump's new tariffs on pharmaceuticals and medical tech could spike U.S. drug prices by up to 15%. Experts warn the move may disrupt supplies and hit millions of patients hard. Watch the full video to understand what just happened, why it matters, and who stands to lose. We're taking a closer look
Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're unpacking a topic that honestly might seem surprising at first glance. But the sources we've gathered paint an incredibly clear and, frankly, quite urgent picture. We're going to explore how trade policy, specifically tariffs, is creating this pretty dramatic shockwave through America's entire healthcare system.
That's right. And our main source today is this urgent report. It's titled, Trump's Tariff Chaos Triggers Medical Price Shock, U.S. Faces Healthcare Breakdown. It comes from Global Mind News.
Okay.
It's really a look at an unfolding crisis. And, our mission today is just to pull out the most important pieces of knowledge to help you understand what this really means for patients, for hospitals.
And the whole supply chain.
And the broader supply chain that keeps our healthcare running. Exactly.
And what's really revelatory here, I think, is that the report highlights a crisis not from, say, a virus or a cyber attack.
Right, the usual suspects.
But from something that seems kind of distant, the world of trade tariffs. It's a profound shift. We should really dive into the details here.
Let's do it.
So, for many of us, when we hear tariffs, our minds might jump to cars or maybe washing machines, things like that.
Sure, consumer goods.
But this report is flagging something far more critical, something that hits, well, much closer to home for everyone.
Absolutely. The core issue here seems to be this storm of Trump-backed trade policy that aggressively pushed for expanded tariffs on Chinese imports.
Right.
And what's crucial for you listening to understand is that this isn't just about steel or aluminum. It includes a vast, often overlooked category of essential things. Medical devices, diagnostic tools.
Things you need every day in a hospital.
Exactly. Pharmaceutical ingredients, the actual, building blocks of our medicines, and even just basic hospital equipment. Beds, monitors.
So the initial framing, as I recall, was about protecting American manufacturing, right? Limiting dependency on China.
That was the argument, yeah. Protect American jobs, bring manufacturing back.
But the report makes it starkly clear that these new tariffs are having some pretty devastating immediate side effects, especially in hospitals, clinics, and the supply chains that really rely on global sourcing to deliver care.
And here's where it gets particularly alarming, I think. According to these internal reports, apparently leaked from the American Hospital Association.
Okay, so this is coming from inside the industry.
Right. Costs for imported items like, basic syringes, surgical masks, diagnostic machines, blood pressure monitors, even ultrasound devices, they've surged by an alarming 30% to 70%.
Wait, 30 to 70%?
70%. And in just weeks.
That's astonishingly fast for things this critical. I mean, we're talking basic life-saving equipment here.
It is.
What does that kind of sudden price hike actually mean on the ground for like a community clinic or a smaller hospital? Is there any precedent for this outside of maybe a hurricane?
It's a near unprecedented financial strain, really. This sudden increase is genuinely pushing hundreds of regional clinics and particularly rural hospitals right to the brink.
Wow.
Many are now having to postpone procedures, delay buying essential equipment, or, this is tough, pass those costs directly onto patients.
Which many can't afford.
Exactly. There's a quote here from a senior administrator at a Midwest trauma center, said with real urgency, "Our ventilator replacement costs just doubled. We can't afford it."
Doubled.
That's not a political problem. That's a patient safety crisis.
Yeah.
And it's not just cost. It's also about availability now.
Right. Can you even get the stuff?
Precisely. The FDA and CDC are reportedly in emergency talks with the Department of Commerce. They're warning that these tariff-related price shocks are creating critical shortages.
Shortages of what specifically?
Essential items, especially hitting areas like pediatrics, emergency care, and oncology hard. So, it raises this big question about how quickly our systems can possibly adapt, if they even can adapt in time.
That question of adaptation, or maybe the lack of it, really shines a light on the deeper dependencies, doesn't it? Because when we talk about systems struggling, we're really talking about America's huge medical supply chain. Just how exposed are we to this kind of shock?
Well, if you connect it to the bigger picture, the report highlights a dependency that is, frankly, staggering, over 62%.
62.
62% of U.S. medical supply chains rely on raw materials or finished products that come from China.
That's huge.
It is. And it's not just equipment, remember. The U.S. imports more than $12 billion a year in active pharmaceutical ingredients. Those are the key chemicals that actually make drugs work.
Right, the APIs.
Yeah, the APIs.
Right.
And over 80% of those are processed in Asia, primarily China.
So 62% reliance overall. That number alone is jarring. But the report suggests this new tariff plan isn't just hitting a few select products, is it? It sounds much broader.
You're right to ask about the scope. It's broad.
Yeah.
The plan is set to impact over 6,000 medical products.
6,000.
Yeah, causing these cascading disruptions that can touch, well, almost everything, from hospital beds to critical cancer drugs. And the pharmaceutical firms, they are definitely raising major red flags.
I bet. What are they saying?
The National Association of Chain Drugstores warns that essential medicines, think insulin, common antibiotics, chemotherapy drugs, even basic generics, could see price hikes of up to 120%.
120%.
By the end of the year, if these tariffs stay in place.
That's potentially catastrophic for patients.
It's a massive potential impact.
Okay, the report also gets into the political side of this. And, we want to present these views impartially, just lay out what the source says to give you the full picture.
Right. So on one side, you have former President Donald Trump, who has consistently defended the tariff plan. His stance, and I'm quoting here, "We need to break our dependence on hostile nations. These tariffs are tough, but they're necessary. We'll make it here, or we won't make it at all."
Okay, so that's the sort of America first protectionist argument.
That's the core argument, yes. A focus on domestic production, breaking dependency.
But critics, on the other hand, are arguing that the timing and the sheer scope of these tariffs are, well, not just tough, but reckless, poorly targeted, especially hitting healthcare like this.
Exactly. Healthcare analysts, for instance, they point out that, shifting medical manufacturing back to the U.S. is a really important long-term goal.
Sure, resilience is good.
But it's not something you can do overnight. It doesn't just replace Chinese imports immediately. So the immediate result, they argue, is that patients and providers, they're the ones paying the price right now.
In the short term.
In the short term, with no immediate domestic benefit really kicking in yet to offset it. And the Biden administration, well, they've been largely silent on this specific aspect, but the report says they're now under growing pressure to act.
And that pressure, it's coming from both sides of the aisle, isn't it? I read that lawmakers from both parties are calling for some kind of specific exemption for healthcare.
That's a really crucial point developing now, this idea of an exemption carve-out.
What does that mean exactly, a carve-out?
It essentially means creating a specific loophole or exclusion within the tariff policy. So, taking medical supplies, pharmaceutical goods off the tariff list.
Got it.
And these lawmakers are warning that without a move like that, these tariffs could just trigger mass price inflation in healthcare, hike up insurance premiums even more, and severely worsen America's already strained healthcare access.
So, okay, let's bring this down to the ground level. What does this actually look like for you, the listener, and your community, day to day? The report highlights some very real human consequences.
Yeah, and it seems rural communities are particularly vulnerable here. In states like West Virginia, Arkansas, Montana, hospital networks, they were already reporting critical shortages.
What kind of things?
Basic items, 5E bags, antibiotics, even surgical gloves, things you absolutely need. Some clinics have apparently been forced to resort to rationing these essential items.
Yeah, rationing, that's a scary word in healthcare.
It is. It puts doctors in this agonizing position of having to make really difficult decisions about who gets what care and when they get it. There's a quote from an ER nurse in Georgia that really struck me.
What did she say?
She put it very vividly. It's not about politics here. It's about who lives and who doesn't when supplies run out.
Wow. It's not about politics here. It's about who lives and who doesn't. It cuts right through all the economic talk, doesn't it?
It really does.
Hearing that directly from the front lines, you realize just how quickly these seemingly abstract trade decisions turn into these stark life or death realities for people.
Absolutely. And it's not just patients and providers feeling it. Wall Street has reacted too. They see the writing on the wall.
How so?
Well, healthcare stocks have fallen sharply. Several major hospital chains have seen double-digit losses because investors are anticipating higher costs and therefore lower profit margins.
Makes sense.
And what's equally significant here is that Chinese suppliers are apparently retaliating now too.
Oh, really?
They're slowing down shipments, They're demanding price guarantees up front and warning about long-term consequences if the U.S. continues down this path of a full-scale trade war, specifically in the health sector.
So it's escalating.
It signals a potentially deeper, more systemic disruption could be coming.
So given all this, the shortages, the costs, the politics, the retaliation, where does this actually go next? The sources seem to indicate the clock is really ticking for some kind of resolution.
Yeah, the urgency is palpable in the report. The Biden administration is apparently reviewing a whole range of options.
Like what?
Things like temporary tariff relief, maybe emergency medical procurement policies, basically, the government stepping in to buy and secure supplies directly, and even activating wartime manufacturing laws like the Defense Production Act to try and jumpstart domestic production faster.
Okay, so there are potential paths forward.
There are options on the table,
Okay.
but the stakes are incredibly high. The report concludes with this really stark warning that if hospitals cannot source critical supplies at stable prices,
Which they currently can't, based on those numbers.
right, then delays in care, medical errors, and even equipment failures, these might tragically become the new normal in American healthcare.
That's a chilling thought.
It is. And for millions of families already struggling with insurance costs, copays, medical debt,
Yeah.
this isn't presented as just some abstract policy debate. It's framed as a looming disaster for their health, their financial stability.
Yeah.
The report ends emphatically.
Yeah.
This is no longer about trade. This is about life and death.
We've definitely taken a deep dive today into how these really complex global trade policies can have such immediate, tangible, and potentially life-altering impacts right down at our local level in our healthcare systems. It's a powerful illustration, really, of just how interconnected everything is.
Indeed. And this whole situation raises some important, maybe uncomfortable questions for all of us, doesn't it?
Like what?
Well, as the report itself asks, are tariffs worth the risk? Or is America gambling away its own healthcare future? It really leaves us, and you listening, to consider how that balance gets weighed. The balance between, say, a national economic strategy and the immediate public health needs of the population, and ultimately who bears the cost of that calculation.
A profound thought to consider as you go about your day. We certainly hope this deep dive has given you some surprising facts, some important context to stay well informed on an issue that, well, it truly affects us all.
Thanks for watching Global Mind News. If you found this report helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We bring you the facts, insights, and updates that matter, straight from the source. See you in the next report.